Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being on this page, on my YouTube page today. My name is Audrey Boissonneau. And well, if you want to find out more about the videos that I'm going to be sharing with you, please like, subscribe, and hit the little bell to get all the notifications on my page. As I wanted to share with you in February, I have introduced you to a bunch of women who have positively influenced and inspired me. And today, in March, I'm starting a new journey and sharing with the world the people who still, again, have influenced me, inspired me, and wanting to become a better version of myself in 2021. So, this man, my guest today, is someone that I have met on the beautiful island of Jersey in May 2019. We actually bumped into one another in the Durrell hostel after we each ran the 13-kilometer race for the Durrell Challenge. And I felt compelled to share with the world who this beautiful person is, because he has so much to share about his story and his journey and his mission. And so, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is Mr. Will Highfield.
Hey Audrey, thank you so much for such an amazing introduction.
So, Will, I wanted to introduce by you sharing with us where you are from and how was it growing up where you are from.
Yeah, so as you say, so we met in Jersey. I was born here, so I've lived here all my life. It's a really small island, but it's a really beautiful island as well. Um, Quite lucky that we've got within sort of a 20-minute drive, we've got sand dunes, cliff paths, awesome trails, roads. We've really got a little bit of everything. So it's always been really good. Like when I was growing up, I spent a lot of my time outside, exploring, just getting up to all kinds of stuff, really. And that's something I've sort of appreciated more as I've got older.
And what did you like growing up on the island of Jersey? So to situate everybody for those who may not know, it's an island in the part of the Channel Islands between France and England. And
Yeah, no,
so you have to really zoom in when you Google it.
yeah,
Because at first it's a small island that we don't see, but I've been there, guys, and it is beautiful. The water is just like greenish blue. It's like the Caribbean's almost. So everyone gets to discover this place.
it is amazing. I mean, it's only 9 miles by 5, so it really is tiny. I remember when we were in New York a few years ago. One of the cab drivers we were chatting to, and he asked where we were from, and when we said we're from Jersey, he was like, "Not accent or not." We
He
said,
might have not been too that impressed. Oh, you're just from across the river.
but when we told him where it was, and actually that's where New Jersey was named from, he was a bit more interested.
Yeah, indeed. And what was I going to say? What did you study after high school, Will?
I was a little bit boring, to be honest. In Jersey, the biggest industry is finance and trust. So I kind of knew I didn't want to go to university. I couldn't really afford to, even if I had wanted to. So I spoke to my careers teacher, and they said, look, if you're not going to uni, best option is to go into trust. It's quite easy to get a fairly well-paid job at entry level, and you can just work your way up from there. So I did my trust exams for A levels. I did like ICT, finance, everything I thought that would be geared towards that. And yeah, I did it for about 6 years after leaving school, and I just really wasn't enjoying myself.
Hmm.
It wasn't really a good fit for me. So yeah, I did a bit of volunteering, and I ended up at the zoo.
Which led to my next questions. How did you end up working at the Jersey Zoo?
So funnily enough, my fiance Gemma, obviously, she's a teacher. So we had a chat, and she basically said, you spend so long at work, like most of us spend out most of our working day at work. So you need to be happy. And she was really, really supportive. And so I said, well, I don't really know what I want to do. So I signed up to volunteer at a youth club in Jersey with the kids, and also volunteer at the zoo with the orangutans. And I must admit, I preferred working with the animals. So I started getting more and more involved in the zoo and everything that they do. And then as job opportunities arose, I jumped in.
And can you tell us how was the idea of Jersey Gorilla born? How did this idea, or where did it come from?
That's a great question, actually, because I don't often get asked that. It just sort of snowballed, really. It started off as a little bit of a bit of a joke. Um, I was never a runner at school. I used to always do 100 meters, the sprints,
Okay.
just because it was over quickly, and then I
Yeah,
would
I can
run for any
relate.
longer. I was always like completely in awe of people who did like the 1500 on school sports day, because I thought that distance is just crazy. Um, but then I'd always wanted to do a marathon. So I started slowly training and getting fitter. And then when the zoo actually had a London marathon place, which is incredibly hard to get into the London Marathon. There's so few places and so many people that want to take part. So I applied for that. And I just really thought, like, from the zoo's point of view, we had to essentially audition for the place. And then they ranked us based on a number of factors to see who would be the most successful candidate. And I thought, how can I make it different? How can I make people want to support me? So I thought, well, if I did the marathon in a gorilla suit, because at the time we were raising money to build a brand new gorilla home at the zoo.
That was
Um,
what year? Sorry, what year are we going back when that all started?
this was 2019.
Okay.
So it would have actually been sort of the tail end of 2018 as I was applying for this.
Okay.
Um, so it was yeah, a big push, a big year for gorillas. So I thought I volunteer with the gorillas on my day off. I've done that for over 3 years, so I'll do it in a gorilla suit, and hopefully that will sort of inspire people. I wasn't actually successful in getting that place,
Ah,
which at the time I was a bit gutted about, but really chuffed that my mate, actually Mark, who I work with on Gorillas, he ran for us and he did an amazing job. So I'd already planned to do all these events and these training plans for a marathon in the suit. So I thought, well, if I can't do London, I'll just do Jersey Marathon, because Jersey Marathon's in October. It gives me plenty of time, and I'll see how I get on.
when was the one you were trying to qualify for in London? Was it in the
So
spring or?
that was April.
Okay.
April. So
So then when you say you had to qualify, do you mean like your timing in running like a certain distance qualifying, or what
so
kind?
so usually to qualify for the sort of world major marathons, to be considered for a place as sort of an elite runner, you have to qualify for a certain time. Now I'm never going to be fast enough to get those places. So what they also do is they have a ballot system you can enter and apply with, which is really hard to get into. Or the third option is you secure a charity place,
Okay.
which is what obviously I was trying to do. Um, and yeah, so it was really an internal process that our fundraising guys basically had an interview with each of the candidates. I think they rated us on um, obviously our running ability, which at the time was non-existent because I wasn't a runner. um,
Come
uh,
on.
our sort of potential to raise funds, so our sort of media personalities and things, um, but also our likelihood of a sort of strong support network. So because I'd actually only run a marathon the year before. It was my first ever one, but I'd recently run a marathon. Um, so like the guys did say that it would be unlikely that people would want to support you on a challenge that they know you can do, because it kind of defeats the point of a challenge. If obviously you know you can do it, it's not really that difficult.
Yeah.
But my sort of response to that was, well, my challenge isn't running a marathon; it's running the marathon in the gorilla suit, and that was where I thought maybe people would get behind it. So it was really handy to have their feedback for sure, and then look at things I could work on for future.
So what I can say that I remember seeing in person and was like jaw drop moment is when I went to Jersey to run on the in the take part in the Durrell Challenge,
Yeah.
and I saw you at the start line all dressed up in the Jersey gorilla, and I'm like, what? This guy's gonna run in this costume? Okay. And then you had like your camel back pack of water on your back, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, first of all, where did you get this costume, and how has it been running in this costume? Have you adapted to it? How so? And have you gotten a new one? Tell us, we want to know.
Yeah, I must be completely honest. The suit, it's like just a generic suit you can buy off Amazon. I think it's about £20, so probably about, I don't know, $15 or so. It's plastic lined as well, so it's incredibly uncomfortable and incredibly hot. I sort of tried to do a couple of runs around the island before as part of my training for the marathon, but also as a awareness raising. So what I did was there's 12 small parishes in Jersey, and I planned a date where I was going to run in my gorilla suit in every single parish, just so people could see the suit, ask questions, understand what it was all about, really, but also so that I could get used to running in it. So I thought the Durrell Challenge was a really good sort of benchmark to see at that stage, because obviously it's in May. At that stage, it's only a few months until the marathon. I could see if I found it comfortable to run 13K in, then I was on the right track. And if I crashed and burned, then I would definitely need to rethink. So it was quite a good. It was a good fun day, and it was a nice confidence booster for me as a runner to finish that and finish it well.
And so, have you changed costumes since the first run in the first gorilla costume, or is it the same?
Yeah. So what I did, I essentially had two of the same suit. And what I found from doing the Durrell Challenge, which I didn't really learn from my smaller runs, the bit longest parish run I think I did was about 6 kilometers.
Hmm.
Um, was that when you're taking on hills and obviously you're sort of breathing heavier, the vision wasn't great in the mask. So I genuinely couldn't see where I was going, which didn't help. I thought I need to make some small changes just to get this more practical for doing 42 kilometers in it. So I basically just trimmed around all the eye holes so I could sort of see a bit more. But I wanted to keep it looking like a gorilla still. I also cut off any excess plastic inside the suit that I just didn't need. Um, and I tried to. I've got a friend of mine actually. She's a really big volunteer at the zoo, Sarah Nugent, and she's also really creative. So I asked her to cut down the sides of the suit, and I actually got her to sew in Durrell Challenge black running vests, just so it'd make it a bit more breathable, whilst the material was still light and sort of easy to run in. So we did make a number of changes, but the marathon was still incredibly difficult.
So you ran the whole 42 kilometers. What was it, in October 2020 or
Yes, yeah.
2019?
Oh, sorry, no, October 2019. Yeah, that was the full Jersey Marathon, which again was only my second actual marathon, and it was in a suit. So I sort of jumped in at the deep end, really. But it was.
How did you get prepared to go from running from like in small parishes, and then the Durrell Challenge, and then going from 12 to 42? Like, how did you get prepared
Well,
for the
I was quite.
distance?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was quite lucky, as I say, because the first marathon I did, I had no training at all. Um, and I literally I ran the Durrell Challenge the year before, and I thought 13K is a good distance. So I ran 13K once a week, and that was my marathon training. Um, so because I'd already finished a marathon, I kind of already knew what to expect. But then I was throwing in the suit to the mix, which just made it hotter, harder. Um, So it was pure coincidence. I was going around Jersey in the suit, getting raffle prizes to try and raise money. And I was in Robert's Garage, a local petrol station over here. And one of the girls in the office said, if you're running the marathon in a suit, you have to chat to James Manners. And James is a sort of a local legend over here. He's won just about every race. He's set island records.
Oh, wow.
He's competed and come top in some of the biggest races in the world. Um, and the year before, he had basically ran the Jersey Marathon in a stormtrooper suit. And so I thought, right, this guy knows what I'm going to go through. He's obviously an incredibly accomplished runner. I need to get him on board. So I'd never met him before. I just pinged him a message on Facebook saying, sorry to sort of message you out in the blue. I've been recommended to speak to you. This is what I'm doing. Any help you can offer would be fantastic. And credit to James, he got straight back to me and said, look, I'm actually training at the minute for a 100-mile ultra run. And that's in June. But he said, as soon as I get back in July, we'll catch up, get you a training plan, and we'll go from there. Now, not only did he do all that for me, he actually ran the marathon to pace me.
Aw.
So the entire way round, because vision wasn't great either, I basically had him running in front of me and I was just focused on his bib and I was just running where he ran. He was making sure that I ate, I drank enough throughout the run. Really an incredible guy and incredible support. And he's been training me ever since. I've just never looked back.
Wow, that's awesome. And when did you realize that the Jersey gorilla had become bigger than Jersey itself, that you were known like outside of the island?
I think the nice thing was that throughout my fundraising campaign for the zoo, I was getting messages, like people like yourselves getting in touch, and that was really nice to show that people did care about the zoo, and not only about the zoo, but about how much effort I was putting in to raise money for them. But it wasn't really until I think after the marathon when I saw the grand total we had raised, and donations were coming from all over the world. People leaving me messages saying where they were from, why they were donating. That was really special. I remember I was sort of quite emotional afterwards, because when you've trained a whole year for an event and you see that feedback, you see that how much money has been raised, and then suddenly you finish the event. I remember sort of thinking, oh, well, what do I do next?
Yeah, exactly. What's next? Like I've been so high, and then you get in, honestly, like for having trained for a triathlon before, and all athletes do say that after their peak event, there's a drop, like a down that they go through for a certain number of weeks or months, even, and it's normal. And then you have to get back into the leap of, okay, I have this new event I have to focus on now. Let's get back into the training slowly, and then, like, yeah,
Yeah,
tell me about that, how that
you're,
was.
you're absolutely right. I mean, it's something I'd never really experienced before. And at times when you're running big events, whether it's marathons, ultra marathons, or I mean, if you're starting out running, a 5K seems like a big event. Um, when you're going through them, there's always that sort of period where you sort of you think, oh, I just want this to be over. I've had enough now. I just want to finish it. But then as soon as you do finish, like you say, there's almost that sort of emptiness inside you, and you sort of go, you almost miss it. And I think because you spend so long committed to an event, and you literally put your heart and soul into it, because you cannot finish an event like that without doing it. That yeah, you almost go into like a little depression afterwards,
Which
which
is totally normal, by the way.
yeah. And like you say, actually, the best way to get out of that is just to focus on what's next. I saw a quote actually from Dean Carnegie, who I love reading his books. He's an incredible, a really inspirational runner. And he said he always gets asked what the average person runs a marathon in. And his response was, he turned around and said, well, average people don't run marathons.
Ooh.
And I thought that was so correct, because regardless of if you're doing it in under 3 years for a time, or if you want to do it sort of over 6, 7 hours. At the end of the day, you're committing to something huge, and maximum respect to anyone that does that.
Well, I'm really interested in finding out more about that guy later on. If you can give me the name of the book and his name so that I can quote it in the description below so that people can go and read it if they're interested, or any runners out there, who need some psychological support or guidance. That could be interesting. Well, I know that in 2020, you went to Uganda for a
Yeah.
trip. I
Yeah.
would like you to talk to us about that trip. What was the purpose, the mission? How long was it? How was it? Tell me everything.
It was honestly incredible. It was a guy, actually, a friend of mine, John Stark, who he used to work at the zoo, and he'd basically he'd gone out to sort of organize trips in Africa because he was an ape keeper. And he still sort of aims to see every great ape species in the wild. So part of it is he obviously went to Africa to see gorillas. And whilst he was there, he met this amazing man called Bruno, who he was a waiter in Kampala, and he basically had this great idea that he wanted to create, because there's so much poverty, obviously, in Africa, and Bruno wanted to create a whole community. He wanted to create a school, a church, orphanages, and he had all these ideas, but he had no money to do it. So John and Bruno sort of kept in touch, and John kept sort of going back, and through their work, they've now created Kafunjo, which it's an orphanage for about 450 children.
Oh, wow.
It's a primary school that they have, and actually, when I was visiting, we were working on building a secondary school so that the kids who finish the primary there don't have to go off to nearby towns. They can actually stay where they are. Um, it's a massive sort of leap forward for them, and it's a really, really incredible project. So I basically, John got in touch with me to ask, from my fundraising point of view, if I could give them any help or any guidance or any ideas, just to try and generate a bit more capital. And obviously, I was pretty much, from the first meeting, I was pretty hooked on the idea of going. Being I love gorillas anyway, so the idea to see them in the wild would be phenomenal. But I'd never done a project like this, and I was super keen to basically see it firsthand and see if I could help.
So you knew that going to Uganda not only you would help for the orphanage or the building, but you knew that there was going to be like a little time to go out in the wild to see the silverback gorilla, or was it a
Yeah,
surprise at the end?
no. So it was all sort of the trip was really well planned, and we had an itinerary of the whole 2 weeks, so we knew roughly what we'd be doing on each day. Obviously, we sort of had to pay up front as well to make sure that sort of we were committed to the trip, and it was all going ahead. Um, but yeah, it was a definite. I mean, mountain gorillas are sort of the second most endangered subspecies of gorillas.
Hence our t-shirt today.
Conservation as a marathon.
Yes, conservation is a marathon.
And I thought I need to get out and see them. Whilst it's easy to do, to be honest, because obviously if conservation doesn't improve, numbers will dwindle, and then it just gets harder and harder to see them. So I thought that was a really strong incentive of the trip. And yeah, it's something I would love to go back and engage with again.
And can you break down with us like the moment you were in the jungle and you could see from afar the silverback gorillas and you were getting closer to them? Like how were you feeling inside as Will, the man, but also as the Jersey gorilla? Like how were you feeling at that moment?
Yeah, so I mean, we actually with the gorillas, it was incredible because we were told when you go into the national park, you may have to walk for sort of 8, 9 hours to
Oh my
find them.
gosh.
And obviously, they move. They're free. They can free to roam wherever they want. Um, or we could be lucky and we could see them in a couple of hours. Now, because I was obviously already a runner at that point, I was more than happy. I almost wanted the 8 hour trek because I wanted to have to sort of find them in their natural habitat. I didn't want to just jump out of the Jeep, start the walk, and then go, oh, there they are. Like it would have felt too forced and too sort of unrealistic, really. Um, but I was really calm seeing the gorillas. Obviously, super excited, but I know just how gentle and how majestic they are. So there was no point where I felt worried or scared. Um, at one point, actually, we were walking through the forest and we heard this noise. We could see the silverback, really chilled. We were obviously not intimidating them. We weren't getting too close. And then all of a sudden, we saw this bush move, and one of the little babies had just toddled out the bush and he walked straight through our line of people. So, I mean, it was the little gorilla was maybe a meter and a half away from where I was standing. But it was just how sort of blasé the little one was about it. It's like he didn't care we were there. He was happy. His family were comfortable. So off he went.
And you felt safe at all times?
Completely safe, yeah. Obviously, you've got rangers there with you. You know they're really well trained.
Okay.
But obviously, having experience working with gorillas does help. Um, as sort of another part of that trip though, we did do chimp tracking. So we went out looking for chimpanzees in the wild, and that was a completely different story. Um, Gorillas by nature are very gentle, very sort of peaceful, and they're vegetarians, so they would have no interest in attacking people unless they absolutely had to.
Oh, good to know. Good to know.
But chimps are sort of the opposite.
Oh,
They're very similar to humans in the sense that they're warlike. They will almost attack and kill things as a display of dominance. They do actually eat meat as well, so that's another another bit of a worry. Um, but they're quite unpredictable. So you don't always get the warnings you get with other animals.
okay.
So we did have a display where our group was sort of near where this alpha male chimp was resting. And the chimp obviously saw us, started pounding the ground, started shaking trees. So we obviously, the rangers as well, we all sort of backed off. But the route which he wanted to take took him through 3 or 4 members of our group. So he literally charged at them, hammering the ground, hammering the tree trunks, and then jumped around them. But we thought that could quite have easily have gone the other way. So that was a really sort of scary moment.
So basically, like he was just protecting his territory and his herd.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, we were sort of at a respectful distance, but I mean, as I say again, because of the sort of unpredictability of them,
Mm.
one chimp can act completely different to another. So he was obviously getting a little bit more aggro maybe than the Rangers had expected.
And so, what would you say your fondest memory of this trip were for you?
So for
Because I
me,
remember seeing you running with some kids.
yeah, no, I was actually just about to mention because I was actually training at the time to do a 40-mile ultra marathon in Jersey, along the north coast. So James, again, my coach, he said, look, whilst you're in Uganda, obviously, if you can continue your training plan, it'll be a big help because 2 weeks out is quite a long time. So I stuck to my runs as much as possible. And I actually said to some of the older guys at the school and the orphanage, I said, I don't know where I'm going, but I need to go out for a 13K run. Do any of you fancy joining me? And three of the guys, one on a motorbike and two running, came with me. We went off, filmed it all on the GoPro. That was fantastic. My mate Paul, actually, he came with us on the Jersey Marathon, me and James. He actually donated that to sort of help me raise awareness to others, which was really, really kind of him. And we set off on this run with no plan. No one knew we were doing it, but as we were running along, all of the children that were sort of making their way to and from school or town or whatever, they just joined in, and we didn't ask them to. They just saw us running and saw us happy, so they joined. And all the way along, we had that, which for me, it was so nice, because I think it's quite easy when we go out for runs and we've got all our tech and all our kit. But looking at the kids, a lot of them didn't even have shoes, but they were so playful and just so full of energy and fun that it was really incredible to see. It's quite humbling as well, I think.
And was it a year ago, almost date to date, that you were there?
Yeah. So actually, yeah, it was March last year. So just as the COVID sort of pandemic was hitting full swing.
Because I remember telling you, like, when are you coming back? Can you come back? And you had other plans to actually travel to other places.
It was quite worrying, because we were due to stay in Uganda for another couple of days, and when we first got there, children were sort of shouting at us, "COVID, Corona," just purely because we were white and we were outsiders, and we took it as a bit of a joke. They were laughing and giggling, so we didn't think it was too serious. But then a couple of days into the trip, as we were driving in our van, the kids sort of started throwing stones at us. And then a few days after that, adults started shouting, and there was quite a lot of sort of tension, and it was quite uneasy. And a few of the guys had been in Africa before when large events had happened, and it descends to violence very, very quickly. So after we saw gorillas, we'd basically made a group decision and said, look, the last few days were due to be relaxing days, and we'll just cut them short. We'll head straight for the airport. When we got to the airport, actually, we saw the UN World Food Service planes were being loaded, and they were actually leaving. So we thought, if the United Nations are getting out, then we're probably in the right place. And sure enough, the president, as we landed in Dubai, the president shut the country. We were the last plane to leave. So
Oh my gosh.
it was incredibly lucky. Obviously, I didn't tell any of this to Gemma when we were there, because I knew she would be worrying and freaking out.
Gemma is your fiance, by the way.
Yes. So it was quite funny, because when I got home, she said, like, our garage, whilst I was away, our garage flooded. We had loads of like electrical problems in the house. And she was sort of not telling me any of that, because she didn't want me to worry, and I didn't tell her any of my stuff because I didn't want her to worry. So yeah, it was nice to be back. Nice to be back in Jersey, for sure.
So could you please tell us, Will, how this trip has shaped your life since you got back?
I think there's a couple of things, really. So I'm a lot more grateful for what I have. It sounds a bit cliche, but it's until you see it for yourself, you can watch all the sort of films and documentaries you want, but until you see it for yourself, I don't think it ever really hits home, because otherwise we always watch it, and then as soon as we switch it off, we generally go to making our dinner or doing whatever we need to do. But when you're there and you're living it, I mean, I was only there for 2 weeks, so I can only imagine what it'd be like for months. But when you're living it every day, there isn't any other option. But also it was really nice, actually, because I took the gorilla suit with me, and I did a few runs, and I thought, actually, it's the first time I've been away and I've run anywhere different, and it sort of broadened my horizons with the whole traveling thing. And I thought, actually, if I can raise this much money in Jersey, if I do take it abroad and I go to different places, then potentially we can raise more awareness and sort of tap into different markets. So that was quite a cool thought.
I saw that you posted on February 20th video, a series of videos that you've done because you were running for 8 hours in Jersey in collaboration with Charles, a man that you met. Please tell us where. Can you tell us about that 8 hour running event?
Yeah, so it was quite weird because obviously it wasn't a fundraiser for the zoo. It wasn't even an event to support gorilla conservation. But Charles I actually met when he was studying in Jersey Zoo, and he's a really good bloke. And he connected. We sort of kept in touch, and he connected with me late last year, and just ran this idea by me because whilst he used to work with cross river gorillas in Nigeria, he's now sort of working and studying around pangolins. And he'd obviously seen the success I had with my Jersey Gorilla campaign and wanted to basically copy that with his own species. And it just asked if I was okay with that. And of course, that was fine with me. I thought it's all for conservation. If he can make a success with it as well, then obviously I'll help in any way I can. So we started chatting sort of each week, and he came up with this idea of a run in a pangolin suit to raise money for pangolins. So I basically said you have to have a suit because otherwise you're just a man out for a run. The suit is what people see and they talk about, and that's where you're going to get donations. But I said you need also to make the run relevant. So for me, I did Jersey Marathon for Jersey Zoo, so it was quite fitting. But I said you need something that basically links back to why you're doing this. So he said, well, there's 8 species of pangolins in the world. So can I run 8K? I said, well, you can, but as a runner, I wouldn't sponsor someone generally to run 8K because most people, if you do put in the time and training, it's fairly achievable. You need to have some basic either an epic distance you're going to do, which is really going to challenge you, or an epic time. And I spent most of last year running ultra marathons, which is basically any event that is longer than the marathon, the 26.2 miles. So I said, why don't we do an 8 hour run?
From 8 kilometers to 8 hours, it's like,
Yeah.
whoa.
And previously had only run 2 hours before in one go. So it was quite a big jump, but just from sort of my own experience, we managed to get a training sort of plan for him. And yeah, we got him ready, and the event was a big success. So it was really nice for me to basically use all of my experience that I've gained over the last 2 years to help other people and other charities as well as what I'm doing for the zoo.
And Charles was running where?
So he's based in Cambridge in England. So
Okay.
he was running there, and originally we were going to try and meet and run together, but obviously with COVID restrictions it wasn't possible. So we basically ran. I ran in my gorilla suit in Jersey. He ran in Cambridge in his pangolin suit, and we just phoned each other every now and then just to see how we were getting on.
Awesome. What are some of the projects that you have planned so far for 2021 that you can share with us?
So I was after my Jersey marathon, I was thinking what next? Like what can I do? Because I didn't want to just stop. I'd obviously seen that we'd been incredibly successful that year. And I thought there's still an appetite that people seem to enjoy what I'm doing. So I'll try and keep it going. But again, trying to make it relevant to the zoo, I thought I could potentially run in each of the areas that the zoo has a conservation site in the field. So I ran it by Leslie, our CEO, and all of our senior management. This was June 2019. So before I'd actually ran the Jersey Marathon, I sort of started planning the next thing. And I planned to run in India, in Assam, at our Pygmy Hog project. That would have been November last year. But unfortunately, again, COVID, it all got cancelled. So I've rescheduled and I'm going to try and go in May this year.
Oh, nice.
So a couple of months. But
So right
like
after the Durrell Challenge or before or?
So I'd actually be away during the Durrell Challenge, so I wouldn't be doing the Durrell Challenge this year, if the flights go ahead. But the plan is really to do the sort of community engagement that I did in Africa. So obviously I'd be running a marathon in my suit, to sort of raise awareness and to raise funds. But I would also want to run and connect with local communities, do a bit of volunteering and filming behind the scenes with the Pygmy Hog team in Assam, just to really to show people that there's so much more to what the zoo does than just the zoo in Jersey. And the idea is I want to try and make a little 30-minute mini documentary of each trip that I can then bring
Oh,
back to
please
all of our
do. That's such a great
supporters,
idea.
and just really show what the money that people are donating to my campaign is going to. So really excited about that, but hopefully it all goes ahead.
So, okay, so we're crossing our fingers that this goes on as planned. And also wanted to share, I saw a video, another video that you've posted on your Facebook, Jersey Gorilla page. And you tag some of your partners that you're working with, and the title was with the conservation is a marathon, and was it something that you've posted in the new year? You're on the
Yeah, so it's
beach and
around
you have your
January
arms
time.
crossed like that,
Yeah.
and you're like, someone did a video with
That was-
you, and I was wondering if you could please tell us about that, like all those partnerships that you have with all the support that you have on the island.
Yeah, no, it's really been amazing. I mean, I could not do what I do without everyone's support. I mean, Green Kiwi was the first local company to actually get behind me, and they basically sponsored all of my sort of shorts, trainers, and basically running gear. The sort of current team is obviously James, my running coach at Traction Running and Fitness. Um, Performance Physiotherapy Jersey. They have been an absolute godsend. So I mainly work with Fiona, but I've also sort of worked with Paul and Alex as well. Not only do they sort of patch me up after I've done events, but on the majority of my ultra marathons, they've either given up their days off to actually follow me around the route and
I've
provide
seen that.
support.
That's awesome.
Um, they're sort of at the back of the van pit stops are becoming legendary on Ireland. I've had a couple of friends join me, and they've said they never want to run without the team now because they've just realised how good life is with Performance Physiotherapy Jersey. But also little things like Alex, she'll bake us muffins, and they're just an incredible team to work with. Also my nutrition, which is something I never did on the first marathon.
Is it with
Um,
Bo? Pinpoint
yeah,
Nutrition?
that's with Bo at Pinpoint. Yeah, I
Shout out
mean,
to Bo!
he's amazing. Nutrition is such a big part. We think running is quite a physical activity. It's an endurance sport, but often we just think about our legs. We don't think about what we're actually eating. And something I noticed doing ultras with Bo is that nutrition can make a massive difference if you do it correctly, either good or bad. So he's really been sort of tightening up like my diet and what I'm actually eating during events. We're sort of fine tuning that to make sure I'm getting the best possible result out of my body. So that's been really cool. There's only sort of really two others to mention, that Wear Your Belief, who design and sell the beanie you're wearing, the t-shirt that we both got. They've been fantastic. A really small local business, but they've created this Conservation is a Marathon range, which 50% of all profits goes donated directly through my fundraising to the zoo. So it's really a big help that not only by wearing your tee and your beanie, you're raising awareness, you're actually directly donating to the campaign as well. So it's really been it's taken it to another level really, which has been so much fun. And then the other sort of local business that's helped is Big Maggie's. The boys down at Big Maggie's, I met them actually at a cycling event I was promoting for HSBC Bank. And they asked me to pop down in my gorilla suit and just sort of do a couple of fun photos, bits and bobs to try and get kids interested. And I met Tony and the team down there, and I sort of told them what I was doing, and I cycled to work every day, but I was always using sort of really cheap basic bikes, and they were always breaking, and it wasn't very good. And they said, look, just pop in and we'll see how we can help. Because obviously a big part of what I do is running, but to rest my muscles, I need to cross train as well. So I cycle to work almost every single day. And then when I do get time off, often I'll go out for big cycles. And it's a really nice way of keeping fit, but using different muscles. So I think the team Jersey Gorilla, it's a really, really good bunch.
As we
I'm
say, it takes a
super proud
village,
of
eh?
them. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm super proud of working with all of them. There's a load of local businesses as well, who far too many to name, that have provided raffle prizes or sort of supported different events. And it really just showed how much people will come together for a cause they believe in.
Yeah, that's awesome. And well, how would you, let's say you were to meet your 5, 10, 15, or 20-year-old version of yourself, what top three advices would you tell your younger version?
I would definitely say, like, nothing is too big. Like, I mean, at the very start of sort of our chat, I mentioned about how, as like a sort of 10-year-old at school, I was in awe of the guys that could run 1,500 meters. And then I look at myself now and I think I've run 100 miles in one go. Um, Admittedly, it took me 29 hours non-stop to do it, but we got there.
That was a pick. I remember following you
Yeah.
during that time. It's like, oh my gosh, so emotional
Um,
also at the end, eh?
and that's the thing. I think I'm fairly stubborn that when I set myself a goal, I'll always work and I'll do my very best to achieve it. Um, and I think that's a really important thing to say to people, really, is even if at your current state, if you don't think you can do it, it wouldn't be a challenge if you knew you could do it. So break it down into small steps, look at how you want to achieve it, and you will get there. Also, I think it's really important, like, to actually have a cause you believe in, because when things do get tough, like I did that Olympus Mons challenge, that was where we had to climb 70,000 feet in elevation in a week. So it worked out as running 200 kilometers in distance to get that 70,000 feet. Um, and there were times when I literally just, my body was just destroyed. I just sort of broke down, and thinking that actually at that point we thought the zoo may potentially close, that sort of reignited, and I thought, I can't give up. Like, I have to keep going because we're fighting for this bigger thing than us personally. So yeah, definitely stick at what you're doing, aim big, and have something you believe in.
And say you were to leave the world tomorrow, what would you like people to remember you by? What legacy would you like to leave behind?
I hope that, I mean, a big part of my campaign was when I visited all of the local schools, um, and just tried to sort of give a presentation to all of the local kids, really. And I hope that if I've even inspired one person to maybe think of fundraising for a charity that they love, um, or get a little bit more active, or even if it's just getting them to do something that they never thought they would be able to achieve, then I'll consider what I've done a success. It's really it's really about just trying to get the next load of conservationists or fundraisers ready to continue doing what they want to do.
Well, you've certainly inspired me because last year
Thank
I did
you.
5 virtual events. Well, I did run like you did. Was it May 10th or May 11th, around
Yeah,
that date that
yeah,
we were running the virtual, like as if it was the day of the Durrell Challenge in
yeah,
2020. We each ran it, on their side of the pond, and then well, you had your like, was it the equivalent of the Everest or that you were
yeah. So that was the Olympus Mons
the
challenge.
Olympus months, yeah, and then your 100 miles in so many days, and then running in Uganda, the marathon, and you did your races. So that really inspired me. Like I run smaller distances. Like I'll be
Uh,
honest,
they're
but you
just as
inspired
important.
me. Like I did like the Jersey Acro triathlon virtual here.
Yeah.
I did a few races online, like virtual as well. So you have certainly inspired me to get out there, move, and raise awareness. And this is the mission that I have today, to share with you your incredible and selfless and resilient work that you've been doing for now, what, 2 years for sure, at least.
Yeah,
Known
it's
out
been
there.
2 years. It's been incredible. I mean, thank you so much, because that honestly means the world to me. And yeah, it sort of makes all the work the last sort of 2 years worth it. I think now we're actually only a couple of £100 away from raising £50,000 for Jersey
Oh
Zoo,
my gosh.
which I think in 2 years, with one of them being a global pandemic and lockdown, it's an incredible achievement. And whilst I'm the runner, every single person that's followed and donated and supported my Jersey Gorilla social media, they're all part of that. They've all made that happen. So just wanted to say a massive thank you to basically everyone that supported me.
And I also wanted to mention before I forget, remember the 2019, there's been a big auction where there were like, how many, 50 big
Yeah, it was yeah, it was
gorilla
like 50 life-size
statues?
gorillas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was incredible. So we basically had a summer trail. It was the zoo's official campaign for that year, and we had these life-size gorillas all over the island in local landmarks. But we also had mini gorillas, which the local schools and charities had sort of adopted and designed themselves, and they were in all shop windows all over the island. So it really encouraged people to actually get outside, take photos with these gorillas, and try and find them all. Um, and yeah, it was an amazing event. Like the team at the zoo, they did such a good job with it.
And can you tell me, because I've seen it on social media in 2019 when they were moving the different statues in different spots on the island, like the
Yeah,
real size gorillas. And who painted those? Those were gorgeous. They were colorful and so
they
original.
yeah, they were artists from all over the world. A
Oh,
few of them
wow.
were local Jersey artists. One of them actually was Andrew Ralph, our head vet at the zoo. He's an amazing artist and a really really nice guy. So it was quite special that his gorilla was, as it was called, a Bobby Dazzler, and that was the very first gorilla that was on the trail. So it was really nice.
So what like how did it happen? Like everybody, you say all the artists from over the world flew into Jersey, and they each had like what, like a few days or weeks
I'm
of
not,
time allowed
I'm not
to
actually
paint on.
sure. As I say, I wasn't involved in the organising of the event, but I'd imagine they'd have to sort of present drafts, and then sponsors would pick whose gorilla they wanted to sponsor, and then yeah, I'm sure that they'd have had to sort of paint them over here, I guess. But
And it raised, I watched a part of the auction live on the live feed. Was it over 1 million
yeah, it was a
pounds?
£1 million, which is phenomenal. Most of the gorillas actually they're still around in Jersey. We've obviously got one, Gerald Durrell, which was really kindly donated back to us. So that's pride of place at the zoo as you walk in.
Awesome. And so for anyone who wants to find you on social media, they want to support the cause, they want to go on your page, on the Jersey Gorilla page, where can they find you?
So I've got active Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also a YouTube page now. It's really easy to find, so it's just at Jersey Gorilla. Also, the actual fundraising itself is done through Just Giving. So if you go on any of my posts or my Instagram bio, you'll see there's two sponsorship links. One is Love Your Zoo, which is basically unrestricted funds to keep the zoo open. The second is actually the new gorilla home pot. So if people do want to sponsor and go directly to gorillas, they can pick that. Or if they want to just raise money for the zoo, they can donate on the Love Your Zoo link.
So and I'm going to put all the links below in the description so you guys can go and check out and follow Will Highfield on social now. One last question I would say is since all the auction and all the work that you've done in the past couple of years, have you seen like physical structures or changes at the zoo with all the money that's been raised? Like, have you seen improvements, or it's more for like abroad missions abroad in outside of the island?
So all of the money, obviously, that was raised for the gorilla enclosure, the new gorilla home, it's specifically allocated for the gorilla home, so it can't be used for anything else. Unfortunately, obviously, COVID has postponed that, so hopefully in the future we will get this brand new indoor habitat for the gorillas. But at the minute, we're just not able to start work. So it's
But it's for the gorillas on the island of Jersey at the Jersey
yeah,
Zoo.
yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Awesome.
hopefully that will be starting in the future.
So there's no dates so far
No,
that's been established to
obviously
start the renovations or the construction of that new
no.
housing?
So obviously with COVID, things are changing every single week, so
Mm.
it's not possible to plan huge projects like that. As things improve, it might become a bit more certain, but yeah, at the minute things just change so fast over here, and I'm sure are the same for you in Canada.
Yeah, it changes from like a province to another,
Yeah.
the regulations are different from some areas to another. Wow. All right. This is amazing. Well, see, I don't know if it hurted you, but it's been an hour already. Time flies by when you're in great company.
Thank you. It was so nice chatting to you, Audrey, as
Thank
always.
you. Thank you so much, Will. I'm really grateful to you. So everybody, please, 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 if you have even like a dollar, a pound, a yen, or whatnot, a euro to donate and invest for a great, great, great cause. My friend here, Will Highfield, is the man to invest in the cause. What he's, the legacy he's started and is involved in. So thank you very much, my mate. I really appreciate your time.
You're
And I'm
so
looking forward to
welcome.
seeing you. Hopefully, I don't know about 2021, but we have to go for a run together on the
Yeah,
island.
for sure, for sure.
Thank you
Thank
very much
you.
for watching, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.